grabbing the ground of riding horse, mind in Dan Qian. So the Dan Qian is a contraction, a pulling in, and that provides an emanation from the back. So there's a sense that your limbs are spreading out from the back. Obviously with the arms, but we want the feeling with the legs as well. And then just moving side to side, but with this feeling of scooping the ground. So your legs are like spoons that are scooping the ground, as though you're trying to scoop earth into your Dan Qian. That is the action that draws me into the leg. So you have to really linger in the leg. Don't move out of it too soon. So really feel the pull that stretches this joint here, exercising the ligaments. So we're using the arms to sort of help the legs. So normally your arms would be dealing with the other person or with the world around you, and your legs would be dealing with the ground. But here we're just trying to assist the legs with the arms. So the arms are a lot lower than they would be. And then just bringing it into riding horse. So mind in Dan Qian, so this feeling of a draw here, spreading the sacrum across. So the same with all the centers really, but especially here, but the sense that the chest is hollowing in, and this is trying to suck in as well. So the sense that the centers on your front are trying to drift towards the back. Especially the brain, really. So we're trying to sort of just come out of the front brain and come more into the back brain. So just really feel the face spreading, like an oriental face. It's spreading, but it's also drawing in. So it's not opening like this. So the center's never open like this, or hardly. It's sort of coming in and rolling around like this. So you don't want the furrowed, contracted brow. So you're not doing this to try and draw in here. You're more spreading from the back, and then it'll naturally come in at the front. It's the same with all the senses. So each of the centers has like its two servants, two legs for this, two arms for the heart, and the two eyes, if you like, for this one here. So really letting the two be two rather than it just being a one. So it needs to turn, basically. So now let's just start turning. So feel the dantian. Just feel it in the center of the circle. It always has a feeling that it's sort of behind a little bit, but here we're just trying to get it to be in the center. And just imagine your arms are long, tracing a circle on the floor with your extended arms. And just allow the room to move. So your eyes just sweep, trying not to catch on to anything. So there's a sense in which you're becoming just movement. That's all you are. You have no landmarks to latch onto. The only security you have is the ground beneath your feet. So that has to be paramount. And your own center, your own dantian. Then just get back into the scooping legs. So that my leg scoops like this, and that turns me as well as pulling me into the leg. So I want to feel the turn coming from the two legs cooperating with each other. back into riding horse. Feel that you've stopped, but the energy still has a sense of swirling. And now let's just breathe in and out. The postnatal breathing, or what they call natural breathing. The breathing that commences when the baby comes out of the womb and it starts breathing with its diaphragm and its lungs. So here you're filling the lungs by dropping the diaphragm, and here you're emptying the lungs by pushing the diaphragm up. The diaphragm drops, the belly pushes out. The diaphragm rises to push the air out, the belly sucks in. And now just start the reverse breathing. Breathing in as you bring everything in. So everything is coming in, including the air. And then here, everything is expelled, including the air. Feel the pressure really increasing. And then the pressure explodes out. So this is what they call prenatal breathing. So the breathing that the baby does when it's in the womb. So it's not using its lungs. It's breathing directly from the mother through the umbilical cord. So here it's sucking the belly in to suck the nutrients from the mother. And then here it's pushing the belly out to send its waste products back into the mother. Bring it back, but just really feel that. So all the holes in the body have this sense of drawing in, including the ones here, you know, the ears, the nose, and the eyes. And particularly the ones around here. So they're all sort of not leaking. Especially important as we get older. And now let's just try just a bit of the full and empty. Moving backwards and forwards. Trying to stay really relaxed so that it's only the leg that you're filling that's getting tense. The other leg is just letting go. So the leg you're coming into is starting to hold on, to stop, to hold you up. And the leg you're coming out of is releasing. To release the strength that we no longer need. That's really, what relaxation is really. And it's difficult. So I have to really feel that I can support myself from this leg so that this one can just let go. And then the same thing here. So there's a wave of strength in my lower body that is following my body, or if you like, preceding the body very, very slightly. And then there's a wave of relaxation flowing in the opposite direction, which is really just the strength letting go. So a wave of fullness and a wave of emptiness. Feeling the fullness as like a contraction. Everything's coming into a center, and the emptiness is just an expansion. The fullness is like the yang, and the emptiness is just this big, expansive yin. So this is now contracting, this is expanding, and now this contracts and this expands. So we have to feel it as like waves, movements, tendencies. This is contracting, this is expanding. So the contraction is very similar to the breathing in that we did on the reverse breathing, and the expansion is the breathing out, the letting go. So to get it right, allow these two aspects of mind, the filling and the emptying, to be sort of independent of each other. Really listening to each other, so really cooperating. So energy is the play of yin and yang, or like the rub, the friction. But it will only really work if the yin has separated from the yang. And then they can really dance together, play together. So we're always in these two minds. So it's almost like we're becoming schizophrenic. So we need a third mind, if you like, which you can think of as the container, or something in the middle that's just regulating. And this is just walking. So when you walk, you put the weight into one foot, you reach out with the other. So that's the empty leg that's reaching out. And then you bring the weight into that empty leg, so the other foot can reach out. So this is why, walking is just the best exercise, really, but just using the walking, using the exercise to clear the mind, to stop the mind from worrying. When it worries, it just sort of is holding on to the yin and the yang, and just sort of blocking the energy. And now let's just put the other foot forwards and just try it here. There's a wonderful book by Gilles Deleuze and Felix Guattari called Capitalism and Schizophrenia. And it starts with a wonderful sentence: the schizophrenic going for a stroll is a far better model than the neurotic lying on a couch. So using the stroll, the natural exercise, to just loosen the grip that you have on yourself, loosen the hegemony of the ego, so that you can split into all of your component parts, so that you can refine, become more refined, more energetic, softer. So as we come into the front foot, just feel the importance of this turn here, of this hip coming round. Because if you don't do that, if I just come into the front foot and allow myself to turn here, then my energy will just dissipate in the direction of my back leg and my back foot. So what I want to do is empty this side, but also allow it to come forwards. So this is why front foot energy, when you mobilize it, always has this spirally twist. So this is more linear, and then this is really curving. And remember, when you come into the front foot, it's 70-30, which is not much more than half. So if I come into the front foot like this, you can feel it. There's a sense of collapse. So I'm coming into the front foot, but at the same time, my front leg is trying to keep me back. And then that gives it this real turn. So the turn, if you like, is more important than the movement forwards. Because the movement forwards, if you think about it, is only very small. The turn can be really quite expansive. So the movement backwards is important for the back leg, but it's the turn that's important for the front leg. So I'm coming into this leg, but the leg is also pushing this hip back, and then that will swing this hip round even more strongly. So this is especially important in the form. The use of the front leg. So this sense that my front leg is straightening through my body and into the back hand. It's the same with the back leg. So there's this sense as you sink into the leg, obviously the leg is bending because I'm sinking, but also that leg is pushing up through me. Otherwise I would just sink completely and just drop down. So we're just trying to get rid of that holding force, that feeling that my legs are trying to produce a stability here. Because normally what that stability does, it just enables the mind to think to itself. And that's what we're trying to get away from. So this real sense that I'm sinking down to the ground, and then my leg has to push up through me instead of just stopping here. The mind really has to just let go and just let it happen. That foot is expressing itself in this hand, and this foot is expressing itself in this hand, almost like I've disappeared between them. So there's nothing there blocking this flow. Bring it back to riding horse. Drawing this in. Now let's just try just a little bit of this. This is the exercise that the whole form is composed of, really. So the two circles. Remember when we did all that pushing hands, you'd push forwards and then you'd yield backwards. You'd push forwards and yield backwards. So as we got into it and as you practiced, you begin to realize that the important part is where it changes from one to the other. So where the push changes to the yield, and where the yield changes to the attack. What we realized was that if I really wanted to make that juncture smooth and imperceptible to the other person, I had to somehow get the two phases to overlap a little bit. So I would push in this direction, and then I would continue this sense that my elbow is continuing the push as the hand starts drawing in. So I'm still turning this way, and the hand is now joining with the other person's energy. So my fingers are pointing in the same direction as their energy. And then once I've got that join, then I can just turn back like this. And then the same thing here. so that I don't just push back and they will feel that. I wait for them to start drawing back and I just follow it. So I'm turning a little bit more this direction as I'm getting ready for the push. So I reach forwards and then I continue turning, but my hand's coming in now instead of going out. And then I turn here. And now I'm turning this way still, but my hand is coming forwards. So it's like you're doing one thing with the hand, or you're doing one thing with the waist, really, and another thing with the hand. And that's sort of giving that juncture sort of a softness. You're not just reaching towards the other person here, you're reaching behind them so that you can join their push. It's the last thing they will expect, for you to be giving them energy in their attack. The figure of 8. So now instead of there being 2 circles, there's just alternating. A sense that this hand is coming into this side of my groin. And this hand is coming into this side. So my hand comes in here, and that sends out this sort of limb of energy from my sacroiliac. And this hand just goes along with that. So the active hand is really the inside hand, this hand coming in. And this is just going along for the ride. The inside hand, this hand is coming into this point, down into the ground, and this hand is coming up. And if I just continue turning, it would just become the holding the ball, so waving hands in the clouds. But I want to feel it as like a ribbon, a continuity in the flow that never breaks. This is what one aspires to in the form, a continuity, an unbroken continuity. Remember, John used to say you can get the energy out of the leg either by coming out of the leg or by going into the leg. So here, this hand is from the energy coming out of this leg. But this hand is from the energy coming as I'm coming into this leg. So you're always, if you're coming out of a leg, then you're obviously coming into the other leg. So both hands are always active in practice, but just with different energy, with sort of coming out of the leg energy and the other one with going into the leg energy. Distinguish those. Bring it back. And mind in Dantian. It's like a clamp. But the ego is like a clamp as well. The ego is a clamp that's turning a clump into a lump, holding you together in exactly the wrong way. It's reducing your subtlety and your detail and your fineness and just producing a coarse lump. So this is like a clamp, a holding onness so that everything around it can just let go. So without that, without the Dantian, I would tend to just sort of dissipate. I'd just drift out. So I need this like an elastic draw in order to allow me to just separate into all my component parts and just become fine and delicate and subtle. Let's go into the form. This sense that your head is held up. That's something in the mind. Something in your mind is sending this stream of energy upwards towards the ceiling. At the same time, there's another aspect of your mind is just sinking. So there's a sense that the upwards is very sort of local. It's like it's in the middle of the spine, and it's like a thin line travels upwards, and the down is all around. So it's not just in your own body, it's all around you. Looseness in the legs. So even though you're very still and it looks like you're stuck in the middle, there's this sense of play all the time, which comes from a very gentle, shimmering turn from side to side. There's this sense that something in you is itching to go. Something in you really wants to start the form. And a real sense that when you do start the form, it just slips out of you. It almost takes you by surprise. I come into one leg preferentially. So to do that, I have to turn into it. And then this leg can just lift up and go out. And once it touches the floor, there's a sense that it's wanting to suck at the ground, and that draws me into it. And then this is empties, and I just use the turn here to bring my toes round. And as I settle here, I'm just trying to regain the relaxation across my sacrum, which will tend to seize up a little bit as I start moving. And then just relax, wrists up, and heavy elbows take the hands down. So this hand is going out to connect with the other person so that I can then yield. So it's just doing the circle of this exercise. So it goes out and up, and then it comes in and down. Out. And now here I'm yielding really into this leg. So it's something that we don't do when we do the exercise. So this has a sense of reaching forwards and coming into this leg a little bit. As you bring this hand in, this arm just comes up and takes over that task so that this hand can come back up on top and reach towards the person's elbow or their shoulder. Reaching up, settling into this leg, stepping, and now the ward off comes up, and this hand comes down and sweeps out. So this hand is doing a little circle at the bottom here. The circling back round that brings these toes round. This hand is trying to get into this point here, and that will release the shoulder here and let the arm come out. So just try and make the movements as big as possible. So this is really reaching out. And now this hand, again, it just does a little circle like this. So it's turning this way a little bit and then this way to get into position, and that brings these toes round. So again, try not to collapse this knee in like that. So keep the back foot on the outside edge. roll back. It's this hand that's really like the lure. This hand is like the target that is connecting with the other person. But really, it's this hand here that's reaching behind the person. So this is just the two circle exercise par excellence, really. So the energy is really releasing down the hook arm and the back leg. So they're both pointing in the same direction. So as I sink into that front foot, there's a sense that this side of my body is releasing and extending energy out. And I just use that as the first part of the yield for the lifting hands. As you come into the front foot in single whip, you're trying to turn the waist round like this, but this is wanting to stay back. So there's a real tension, if you like, a stretch. You're pulling the two ends of the elastic. And so I'm coming into the front foot here, but that releases the hook, and then I just become round again. And now I just bring it down, pick this foot up and step, and then shoulder stroke. So remember when we did it with John, we would stay in the back foot, but really everyone else comes into the front foot here, and this sense that as I come into the front foot, this back hand is coming round. So I'll be striking with my shoulder and then following up with the fist, if you like. And then the two arms just come up. I just feel this outside edge, the continuation, the circle that my outside edge is just a tiny portion of. So around here, and then just bring it up. And that's all this posture is. White crane spreads wings. It's beautiful. There's part of you that's really focusing in like this, really converging onto like the point that you're striking. But another part of you is really spreading out and diverging. And that's the back hand. And then I just want this hand that has released its energy to become the focus for the pulling back in. In like this, and then I just continue that. And now just brush knee and push. And then play guitar. Ostensibly, it's this hand that's reaching forwards and starting to yield, but at the same time, this hand is slipping up under secretly. Trying not to go forwards too much, trying not to just sink like this. We have to try and just distinguish not just full and empty, but also front foot and back foot. Coming forwards, there's a sense of driving forwards, but at the same time, there's a sense that this leg is trying to force me back or trying not to let me come too far forwards. I was reading that translation where he says, when you come into the front foot, it's only ever 50%. The front leg is trying to keep you back. The back leg is trying to push you forwards. So you've got a surge forwards, but at the same time, you've got an injection through that, like a hypodermic going into the flesh. So I'm focusing forwards here. So my mind is very like this. But at the same time, there's another part of my mind that's flaring outwards at the back. So this openness here. So the hook is always wanting to do this. It's always wanting to open and express the energy that it contains. And I just allow that. And then it's like I bring it all in like this. I really open up to make as big a space as possible. And then I just close around it. And then this is a real closing. Everything's being crushed in. Let's try this one. Outside edges, all the way through the form. You're on your outside edges. Another name for this is apparent close-up. So the arm really gets almost crushed onto your body, and then you just draw it out. And now just reaching forwards, yielding. My left hand now pushes as I come into the opposite leg. And then that just becomes the next yield. But this is just like unwinding the beginning of the form. Just from the single whip, and just do those postures where we're facing forwards. A sense of this wave coming forwards. At the same time, there's like this needle that's injecting from the front heel up through my body and into the hook. And I'm trembling at that equilibrium between the flow forwards and the drive back. Feeling the hook coming from this foot, and then I just release the hook and come into that foot completely, so I can bring this foot up. Almost like everything's collapsing into the Dan Shen, becoming really dense, and then the energy can come out again. And now big circles here. So now I just release the energy forwards here. So there's a sense that I've reached forward and I've pulled here. And that's drawn me into the front leg. And then the front leg pushing against that drives through and into this hand. So it really requires this hip to come round, which is this bit here. So the hand folds in, comes out. So just like a figure of 8, really. So, with John, we used to sort of just bring the hand in and then elbow drops and it comes forward. So in, and almost like you're digging something out of your heart and just bringing it forwards. Okay, so let's try it again from the single whip. Release the hook. Curve it in and bring it in. Step and shoulder and hand. So this is the tearing silk. One hand pulling one way and the other hand the other. Tearing that silk. So what you don't do is hold with one hand and tear with the other. They both have to move equal to make sure that that tear is really smooth. Once more, so just kick to the knee, stamp down with the foot, yield down as you come forwards. This is a difficult yield. So a real sense that you're turning around the person like this. So really getting the waist to turn. Now a little turn here to continue the yield. and then just coming into that front foot, and really, it's got a real twist to it. So it's a hook. All the punches are really hooks. If you wanted it to have a straightness, then what you'd do, you'd hook, and at the moment of impact, you'd just release out. So it'd be, whoo-wah. So like throwing the stone out of the slingshot. Now yielding here, that allows this hand to come out. This hand comes forward, so I yield, push. Outside edges. Bring it round to the front, just finish. Just a real sense that, you know, your energy is free, it's mobile, and it can be released at any moment. So it is very much like releasing the stone from the slingshot. You know, you're spinning it around to fill it full of energy, and then you just let go one of the ends, and the stone just flies out tangential to its circle. That's just pure Tai Chi, really. There's this sense that there's something in you that's just waiting to be flicked out all the time by your waist and the spring in your legs. So what sort of mind enables that? A mind that's just really listening and alert and ready. So nothing going on up here.